All right, let's jump straight into this explainer and decode the incredible architecture of trauma inside Toni Morrison's deeply moving novel, Home. Today, we're going to explore exactly how Morrison uses some brilliant literary devices to make the invisible, psychological wounds of war completely visible to us. We'll be looking at how her unique writing style literally pulls us right into the fractured headspace of her protagonist, Frank Money. To start us off, just take a look at the cover. You've got this stark, embossed tree and these resting birds, right? It provides a very quiet, almost serene feeling. But it's actually a brilliant piece of visual misdirection. That calm exterior perfectly masks the chaotic, violent internal narrative we're about to explore together.
So here is our roadmap. 1. The narrative voice. 2. Reality versus internal memory. 3. Sensory imagery of trauma. 4. Color and light motifs. And 5. Key symbols and meanings. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The narrative voice, framing the trauma.
Right out of the gate, Frank actively wrestles for control over his own narrative. Listen to how he directly addresses the author here. Since you're set on telling my story, whatever you think and whatever you write down, know this. I really forgot about the burial. I only remembered the horses.
By breaking the fourth wall like that, Morrison forces us to realize something absolutely crucial. Frank is actively trying to curate his own pain. He's challenging the official version of his story, highlighting just how unreliable his traumatized mind really is. He's basically trying to hide the horrors he simply can't face behind the memories he can.
Moving on to Section 2, Reality versus Internal Memory, the snapback.
Morrison uses this structure to brilliantly illustrate Frank's PTSD. 1 second, he's totally safe, right? Just riding a passenger train to Chicago, listening to the soothing sound of singing rails. And then, in a literal nanosecond, a sharp transition yanks him right back into a visceral, terrifying memory of a Korean battlefield. There's no warning whatsoever, which perfectly mirrors how traumatic triggers actually work in real life.
And when those memories hit, wow, they are devastating. Just read this line. He saw a boy pushing his entrails back in, holding them in his palms like a fortune teller's globe shattering with bad news. Her beautiful, brutal prose doesn't just give you historical facts about the Korean War. It forces you to experience the exact intrusive images that constantly hijack Frank's brain.
Section 3. Sensory imagery of trauma, visualizing the invisible.
To survive the mental hospital ward, Frank tries to totally numb his senses. He literally fakes a semi-coma by hyper-focusing on a completely neutral object, like an oak chair, hoping it won't stir up any feelings. But when he finally escapes, the physical world just assaults him. Morrison uses phrases like the iced iron of the fire-escape stairs and the maniac moonlight. The environment itself becomes hostile.
So the real game changer here is Morrison's use of sensory overload. She's not just telling us, hey, Frank is having a panic attack. She actually makes us feel it. By bombarding us with vivid, inescapable details, the freezing cold, the abrasive noise of the station, the agonizing chill of snow on bare feet, she forces us into mirroring Frank's panic.
Section 4. Color and light motifs, a psychological barometer.
Now this is fascinating. We can actually track Frank's mental shifts through color. When his panic and dissociation start rising, color literally drains from his world. It turns into a black and white movie screen. But when trauma memories intrude, they arrive in hyper-saturated violent neon and blood red. On the flip side, his rare moments of peace are signaled by militant sunlight and green grass. Color is literally a gauge for his sanity.
Listen to how she describes it here. Against the black and white of that winter landscape, blood red took center stage. They never went away, these pictures. It perfectly captures that agonizing tension, doesn't it? The numb, colorless present, colliding with the vibrant, bloody intrusion of his past. The red just refuses to be ignored.
And Frank knows exactly what's happening to him. As the color naturally drains away, flowers turning black, a red blouse turning milk white, we see his desperate reaction. He actively fights it. He tries to manually recolor the western landscape from his train window, mentally splashing these giant slashes of purple, gold, and green on barren fields, just trying to stave off the impending panic attack.
Section 5, Key Symbols and Meanings, Decoding Frank's Psyche.
So, remember those horses from the very first quote we looked at? Ask yourself, Why on earth would a childhood memory of two fighting horses completely eclipse the memory of witnessing a horrific secret burial? Why would his mind save one memory and bury the other?
Well, Morrison gives us the answer. Frank says they were so beautiful, so brutal, and they stood like men. The horses symbolize pure, unadulterated masculinity and open violence. It's a stark contrast to the shameful, terrifying, hidden violence of the men bearing that body. The horses were something his traumatized mind could process, maybe even admire. The secret burial? Way too much to bear. And symbols of Frank's state pop up everywhere, even outside the main text. Take the publisher's subtle title page colophon of a running hound. Within the context of the story, it's a beautiful, visual echo of Frank's perpetual motion, constantly running, fleeing from his Korean War ghosts across America.
And then there's the hallucination. Frank is repeatedly visited by a phantom, a small man in a pale blue zoot suit. This ghost is so ethereal that when he sits down on the train seat next to Frank and then gets up, he leaves absolutely no indentation in the leather.
This zoot-suited man shows up during moments of transition, on the train, in a bedroom. With his unnaturally pointed white shoes and wide-brimmed hat, he's this phantom of black masculinity and urban survival. He forces Frank, and us, to realize that his mind is going to keep conjuring up these surreal warnings until he finally confronts his profound internal guilt.
Conclusion: making the invisible visible.
If there's one major takeaway from this explainer, it's that Morrison doesn't just describe trauma. She makes it a physical sensory disruption. She uses color as an emotional warning system. Her entire narrative structure mimics the chaotic snapbacks of PTSD, using direct, brutal quotes to ground abstract pain in reality. She uses her whole arsenal of literary tools to make you feel the disorienting rhythm of Frank's mind. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. When literature is crafted so masterfully that it makes us actually feel the chill of a starless sky and the creeping panic of a black and white world, how does that change our ultimate responsibility to the story? Does Morrison force us to become witnesses rather than just readers? Thanks so much for exploring this with me today. I hope it gave you a whole new perspective on how trauma is architected in fiction. Catch you next time.